She's going to give us some top tips on how to stand out from the crowd and give you the best possible chance of winning next month's London Speaker Factor of 2015 and take some tips away with you as a professional speaker too. So please welcome the current reigning champion of Speaker Factor, Claire Carpenter.
Thank you very much, Nikki. The reason why I'm standing here is because I know that Nikki was being absolutely bombarded by questions from people who are entering Speaker Factor this year, and she just got fed up answering them, and so she said, I'm going to bring Claire up on stage. She knows all the answers. What I really did want to do, because then I started getting bombarded by questions, I just wanted to make sure that in the next 15 minutes I do cover all of that. I want to give you the best chance of you winning next month, but also the best chance of getting the most out of your experience, because it really is a cracking experience to do the Speaker Factor. I was worried that 15 minutes wasn't going to be enough, but actually the questions that people were asking me mostly boiled down to just one. And that is going to be my first point. I'm going to give you 5 tips today, 5 points that I think will maximise your chances of getting the most out of Speaker Factor. And point 1 answers the question that most people were asking me. That question is, how can I fit everything that I want to say into 5 minutes? How can I fit it in? And the answer to that is really simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. And that is that a 5-minute speech is tiny, but it's still a speech. And so your structure for the 5-minute speech is exactly the same as a structure for a longer speech. And that structure is simple. You've got a strong opening, because you have to grab their attention. You've got the middle, where you get your points across, and then you've got a strong close at the end. That's your structure. It doesn't change. What also doesn't change is that you need to be absolutely crystal clear about what your message is. Now, your speakers, you know that already. You won't stand up on stage to deliver any speech, whether it's 1 minute or 1 hour. You don't stand on stage unless you are crystal clear about what your message is. So that's the simple bit. The difficult bit is that you have to ask yourself the question, now, that's my message that I want to deliver. What is the most effective way of me getting that message across? And because you've only got 5 minutes, you haven't got as many options as if you've got a long speech. So if you've got a keynote that works, you've got any number of stories that you can put in. You've got your slides that you can put in that we've just seen Philip doing. You've got anecdotes. You've got all sorts of things that you can put in your long speech. In 5 minutes, you're limited. Your stories have to be tight and short. Your language has to be tight. For a 5-minute speech, you've got approximately 600 words. 600. So you're going to have maybe 100 as your opening, maybe 100 as your close. So you're looking at 400 really for the body of your speech. You can maybe go a little bit over, a little bit under, but it's approximately 400. So you cannot afford to waste any of those words. All of those words are absolutely crucial. And here's a tip from Patricia Fripp. She said, when you really want to get a great speech, write it down, take every word off your page, and then make every single word have to fight its way back onto the page. So that's the first thing. That's your structure. Don't let that structure change. It works for speeches. The second tip is you need to stand out. And the reason for that is remember the format of the Speaker Factor. You've got about 10 people, maybe more, I think Michael said, perhaps more people. 10 people up on stage, one after the other. Now, you think you're important? You think your speech is important? You are important. But as far as the judges are concerned, you're just one of a dozen people up here. So it's up to you to get creative and think, how can I stand out? And there's lots of different ways you can do that. You can do that by the language that you use that. You can do that maybe by humour. You can do that by dress. I know that when I got my feedback on the London Heat, they told me I was the only person who used the whole stage in my speech. So that's how I stood out. You can't always tell how you're going to stand out because you don't know what everybody else is doing. But you can have a rough idea. I thought one of the ways I want to stand out is I want to wear a red dress because they stand out and I love red. And in the months running up to Speaker Factor London Heat, I was looking out for a red dress and I was gutted that I couldn't find one. And on the day, I think every other female speaker was wearing a beautiful red dress. So I did stand out by not wearing a red dress that day. So you need to stand out. Oh, props is another way that you can stand out if you've got some different props. So that's the second thing. The third thing is my recommendation in your 5-minute speech is to have a moment in the speech. And what I mean by that is something that within your speech has an effect on your audience. It's a kind of a transformational effect. And it could be, it's something unexpected, I would say, that audiences just like. I don't know if you noticed in Julian's earlier, when he was doing his little mini, he was doing his Speaker Factor speech, and there was an unexpected moment. We thought he was grappling with a baddie out on the street, and then suddenly we find out actually he's in the middle of a judo thing, getting his black belt. That was unexpected. Now, how did we feel when you get that unexpected moment? It's nice. You know, we like it. Audiences like it. Judges like it.
If he'd done it in a red dress, he would have won.
I just thank God he wasn't in the London Heat, because I don't know. So have that moment. And another reason why I think it worked is because I did have a moment, and I didn't really realise beforehand until people came up and told me afterwards. And that moment was when I was talking about a diet, a miracle diet that solves all the world's ills. And I was saying, who designed that diet? And I said it was a woman. And I built up the anticipation of who was it that designed this incredible diet? And I ended the anticipation by saying, she is the most powerful woman in the world. And then I left a long silence. And loads of people coming up to me afterwards saying, I was really thinking then, who on earth? Like, Angela Merkel? Is she releasing a diet or something? So I had that really long pause, and then I announced, of course, it was Mother Nature is the woman who's designed. So that was my moment. Now, in the Speaker Factor final, it's a bit of a confession, really. So I was in the middle of it, 200 speakers and the judges there, and the tension in the air, as Julian was saying. And so the 3 judges, Patricia Fripp was one of the judges. And she was watching me deliver that thing, and she didn't move an inch. She did not move a muscle throughout my entire speech. And I swear to God, at one point, I thought, I've put her to sleep. She's like, she's not. And I was really frightened that I was just not having any impact on her at all. But when it came to that moment in my speech and the long pause, she lifted her head up, and then I announced Mother Nature, and she went, yes. And she looked down and she made a note. And I think that moment helped me to win the Speaker Factor. So that's my number 3. My recommendation is to have a moment in your speech. Number 4, and this is not a tip from me, actually, because I'm only a national speaking champion. The next tip is from a world speaking champion, and this is the Toastmasters 2014 champion, Dhananjaya Hattiarachchi, I think, who did a workshop a couple of weeks ago. And so this is about the delivery. And he gave this tip, and he said, so they're going to announce your name, you come up on stage, loads of energy, and then you turn around and you look at your audience, you smile at your audience, and then you say nothing for 4 seconds. And the reason you say nothing is because your audience are not listening to you. And the reason they're not listening to you is because they're busy doing something else. They are checking you out. They're seeing what you're wearing. They're seeing how tall you are. They're working out who you remind them of. So they're doing all of these things, which means if you deliver your killer line in that 4 seconds, it's going to lose its impact. Now, the trouble is, as you well know, time is not equal. If you are having fun, 4 seconds will go like that. But if you're standing on stage looking at an audience and they're all looking at you and nobody's saying anything, those 4 seconds can go on forever. And I actually did that in a workshop after Dan and Jaya said it. I did it in a workshop and I got somebody to come up. It's a group bigger than this. And I pulled somebody up out of the audience and I said, right, I want you to introduce yourself, say a couple of words, but you've got to stand still for 4 seconds first. And he did it, and it was the funniest thing in the world, because he did manage to do it. But I asked him afterwards, how did it go? And he said it was horrific. And it was sweat pouring off his head and everything. So it can be difficult. It's up to you whether or not you want to go with that tip. But that's from the current world champion in public speaking. So that's my 4th tip. And my 5th tip is not to do with the content or the delivery of your speech. It's more to do with how you can maximise the experience, what you want to get out of the competition. And this is most definitely not coming from me, because I didn't do it the right way at all. But this is from another one of the finalists, Gina Bataille, I think you pronounce her name. Let me just paint a picture for you. So, we're at the Speaker Factor final. It is an extraordinarily fantastic experience. It's brilliant, it's so exciting. And I was up on stage, they announced the winner, and, you know, it's fantastic. And I stepped off stage and I said to myself, I'm going to enjoy this moment. I'm going to chat to everybody, might have a glass of wine. I'm just going to revel in the glory. Tried to find Julian to congratulate him on coming second, but he'd legged it out the door. But I just wanted, I just sort of relaxed into the moment, and it was brilliant, and it was lovely. In contrast, Gina stepped off stage. Bang! 48 press releases went out. She was doing video interviews over here. She was doing radio interviews over there. Flooded social media. Fantastic speaker Gina Bataille in the national final of the PSA Speaker Factor competition. If you want to interview Gina, phone this number. If you want Gina to speak at your event, phone this number. And I was standing there like... I mean, I was in awe of what she had done there. But, I mean, part of me was thinking, it was me that won. but it didn't matter, in terms of PR and what you get out of the competition. It doesn't matter if you win or not. She won it, definitely. So if you're in the Speaker Factor, I mean, the PSA, it's got a good name, it's a good reputation, it's a good stamp of credibility that you're even in it, never mind if you win it. So I would take advantage of that if you want to. Write a press release in advance, talk to Gina, because she's good. She's good what she's doing, and it just means that. I mean, without trying to sound, like you're milking it or whatever, it's just you might as well get the full flavour really of what Speaker Factor can do for you. And if you are a fairly new speaker, then it really is a stamp of credibility that can be difficult to get when you're just starting out. So it is something that I'd recommend, that you get organised before you actually stand up on stage. So they are my 5 tips. I hope I've covered everything. I think I've covered all the questions that people have. I will just finish by saying the 3 criteria, the judges' criteria that they will be looking at. You will be judged on your content. You will be judged on your structure. and you'll be judged on your delivery. Now, I have covered some of those things in the 5 points that I've given you. I actually didn't know that that was the judging criteria last year, so you can win without knowing that. I found out about an hour ago when Jeremy just handed me the list. But, you know, have a look at those 3 things. Remember that you have to stand out, and above all, enjoy the experience. Good luck.
Thanks, Jerry. Thank you, Claire.